everybody. Welcome to our webinar, Buying a Home in The Hague. I know it's nice weather outside, so I believe we all like to have a little drink on the terrace as well. So I will keep it short, but nevertheless, we have some interesting information to share with you. I propose to start with it and to go through the presentation together. Of course, we have a chat, so if you have some questions, you can always pop them in the chat, and I will come to that questions later after the presentation. First, maybe to mention that I'm now doing the presentation, but if you go to The Hague, then it's very likely that you will see my colleague, Katie Tunney. She's our expat buying manager of that region, Cypriot British, born and raised in Cyprus. She's living in Rotterdam at the moment, but also knows The Hague very well. If you have any specific questions, then for sure she will be able to help you and guide you on the way. Greatness is achieved in the agency of others. As you see, I'm not doing this alone. You see some of my colleagues from the buying team. We are in total now with 35 people. Also a lot of people helping in finding expats some rental places in the Netherlands. And we are located in different places. As I said, Katie, you can find her in Rotterdam and The Hague. Rick, you can find him in Utrecht. Giovanna, you can find in Eindhoven. Ludo in Amsterdam. Rafaela in Groningen. And myself and Ellen, we are also present in and around Amsterdam, but sometimes on different locations as well. So you can find us all over the country, and we can help you in different cities, of course. But today, we focus, of course, on The Hague. And I like to tell you maybe as well who we are, how we work, that you know a little bit about our processes and also our profile. We are not a traditional real estate agent. That doesn't mean that we don't know our business, of course, that we are not professional. But we like to focus on the fact that there are a lot of expats working within the company, or Dutch people that lived abroad as well. And they know as well always the process of moving to a country, finding your place over there, and also get to know all the specific rules that apply, or the culture that is part of that place. We help with buying and renting. That's what I said before. And what is quite important to know for you is that we charge a fixed fee. As you know, or you don't know, but then I tell it right now, that is that realtors often, they charge you a fee on the purchase price. It's a percentage going from 1 to 2% on average. That's not the case with us. We only charge a fixed fee. So from the moment you start with us, depending on the package, because we have several packages, but depending on the package, it will always be the same price. You know upfront what you will pay. No cure, no pay, of course, at the moment that you secure your house. And of course, as I said, we know what it is to settle in a new country. So that helps you as well, that we understand your process and can also help you a little bit when you have some doubts or some specific issues related to that. What is our added value in the process itself? Very important to know that in the Netherlands, it's common that you have a buying agent as well. It's not in every country the same, but in the Netherlands it is. And it means as well that the selling agents, when they receive an offer from us, in your name, of course, but that they will know that we did our homework, and that it is very likely for them, if they accept the offer, that they also will come to a purchase contract, of course, in first instance, and a transfer deed later on. So they take our offers a little bit more serious than sometimes if you don't have a buying agent, because then it can be that you make a great offer, but you didn't do your homework, and finally, the deal will be canceled, and there is no sales for the seller as well. We can sometimes book viewings when it's no longer possible for you. For sure, at some periods in the market, we had it last year for sure, around August, September, October. It was so busy, viewings were no longer possible on a lot of properties. Some selling agents have some slots where they say as well, if you are a booking agent, then you can come to that specific slot as well. It's not always the case. Let's be honest, we need to be fast as well. But from time to time, it can help that we call our network and we can book and secure the viewing for you. Of course, we support by reviewing all the Dutch legal property documents. That is very important. For you, you will not always understand every detail of what is mentioned in there, but it can play a big role, of course, in your final purchase, not only in the offer, but also when you have the house, and what are your rights or maybe the obligations that you need to fulfill. We help define the market value through market data. I'll come to that a little bit later because that's a very important topic. But remember that the market value, we come to that later in the presentation. And of course, we will inform you about all the rules and regulations that apply for the property. In the end, we make sure that you don't make the same mistakes that we made, or maybe mistakes that our clients made. Let's call it experience. We have a lot of experience in different cases. So in that sense, we can help you with avoiding making those mistakes when you enter the process. For today, I give a small introduction already. I will come to the market info in a minute, very important, of course, but also what are the market drivers? You can have the situation on today, but what if one of those conditions changes going forward? We will speak about the savings that you need to buy a property, and I will give also some tips to win in the current market. And then to summarize everything, I have a nice timeline for you where we can go from A to Z, and that you understand the process that I explained already, but then in a very clear overview. And then we go forward with the market information, as I just told you. What is important to see is that, of course, you see that we have a big graph that always goes up, only for some moments around 2008, 2009, and here around 2013, 14, that was a little bit different. On today, we see as well that it does a little bit like, a direction down, I can say it like that, and that we are topping off on the market. Does this mean that the market is cooling off on today? It is a little bit too early to tell that, as it is only one quarter and we see the difference is quite small. What we see also in the figures, and the figures that you see is that if we speak about existing buildings, the average purchase price in Q4 2021 was 438,000. If you see Q1 in 2022, we have 428,000. So that's a little different on average. What is important to know that it can also be because of the type of houses that the average price goes down a little bit. So what we do as well is we look also at the price per square meter and compare that to what happened before, and see if we see an evolution over there as well. There we saw as well that the prices on average went down with 2% between Q4 and Q1. That we saw that the price per square meter only went down with 0.5%, something like that. It means that the market is almost stable. Yeah. Does this mean that going forward we will see the same? We cannot say that on today. It will show in next quarter if it's really a trend, or it was like a momentum where we saw that the Q1 quarter was a little bit slower or a little bit lower, but that from next quarter on we go up again. So, but nevertheless, good to have a view on that. Good to have a view on those numbers, because it says something, of course. We went up a lot. You can see that on the graph, and it seems that somewhere it is slowing down. It is normal, of course, and it is likely that at a certain moment, maybe the price will go up a little bit, but not at the same speed as before, because that's not possible. That would mean that almost every 5 years we double prices, and that would be too much, of course. What you see as well at the back, and that's something I like to mention as well, is that you see the price of new builds. They are on average 466,500 for Q1 2022. Important to know for new builds is that the buying process is not totally the same as what I'm going to explain to you tonight. We have separate webinars also for new builds. You can always book an intake as well if you like to have some more information about that. The price is different. How the price is defined is also a little bit different, because there will be no transfer tax on new builds, but there will be VAT that is included. What is often the case is that average price with new builds is not included all finishing of the house. Yeah, you will often still need to put a kitchen in there, or maybe do some finishings on the walls and on the floors. Separate webinar for that, but then you can somewhere have a look as well on the numbers. So slightly higher than existing buildings, but not totally the same how the price is defined. If we look at the Hague figures, also important and yeah, good to see, is that we see that in Q1 2022, we see that the average purchase price went until an amount of 437,000 euros, which still means that if you compare that year to year, compared to Q1 2021, that we have a plus of 11%, almost 12% for the Hague. But if you see that compared to last quarter, then we are around that 2%, 2.5%, that prices seem to go down. Yeah. What we still see is that houses sold are not that much, only 1,500. So that's minus 17% from last year, also minus 17% from last quarter. So not a lot of houses on the market. Houses for sale, you see the same numbers that from last year compared minus 7%. It is plus 7% from last quarter. So there we see that maybe there is a little bit more houses coming to the market for sure at the end of Q1 and maybe the next quarters to come. So that could be a positive thing. Average price per square meter, you say what I said from compared to last quarter, it's almost equal. If you compare that to last year, then I think something went wrong over there. I think it needs to be around 8%. But still, compared to last year, the prices per square meter, for sure, they went up. But yeah, as we say, if we compare to last quarter, they seem to stabilize. Then the sales time in days, we see that it is a little bit longer, but not too much. Around 24 days it was in Q4. In Q1 we have 26 days. Still, that means that they are sold quite fast. If you put a house on the market within 20, 25 days, it is sold. That's still a very fast procedure, of course. And that's why you also need to be prepared when you step into the buying process. So that's good that you follow this webinar, because I come to all those things, how to prepare further on. These were the market figures for The Hague. So as you can see, good to have an eye on it. It seems they're still going up compared to last year, but not that much anymore if we compare to last quarter. Let's see what Q2 brings to see if it's a trend, yes or no. And then we come to some causes for those prices to go up, for sure until now. But do we also believe that it will go forward like that? We can say that there are some fiscal benefits, like the tax exemption that you have. Tax exemption when you buy a property below 400,000 and you're younger than 35 years old. Of course, they help. Also, the interest rebate that you can deduct interest that you pay on your mortgage before your salary is taxed. Yeah, that's also a positive stimulus, of course, and gives you some extra money to do the down payments every month. No capital gains for sure brings that people that are in the market already and buy something new, they sell their previous house and they have a lot of own savings that they can bring to the table. So of course that has a pressure on prices. And then for Dutch people as well, the tax-free parent donation, where it is allowed to have around an amount of 100,000 euros to give them to your children. If they invest it in real estate, then it's not taxed as well. But that will end in 2024. But still, in the meantime, it has an influence on how much people will offer for the houses that they are looking at. Of course, we have the low interest rates. That is something that pushed the prices until now. What we see now that, of course, the interest rates are going up. So we need to have a clear look what the market is doing. It is not totally clear what will happen between now and the end of the year. What we saw beginning Q1 at a certain moment, in some weeks, really the interest rates, they went up very fast. Still, if we look at the total numbers, then we see that we are somewhere around the percentage of mortgages that apply, on the interest rate on mortgages that apply at the level of 2019 at the moment. And at that moment, we said, oh, it's very low. Now you need to invest and have a mortgage because there are low interest rates. After that, and for sure, last year, they went down again. Now they are going up, but still in a historical context, the interest rates are quite low. In that perspective, to see what will happen this year, nobody can predict with absolute certainty. the war in Ukraine may have an effect on it, recession or inflation may have an effect on it, but then also the policies of national banks and all those kind of government instances will have somewhere an effect, and we need to see what exactly will happen going forward this year. Still something to mention that one of the mortgage advisors told me, he said, yeah, okay, it can be then that prices don't go up that fast anymore because of the interest rates going up, but that means that the interest rates are going up, and it can be that even with the same price or a little bit of a lower price with a higher mortgage, yeah, you even in the end pay a higher installment to purchase that property. So yeah, as long as interest rates don't shoot through the roof, to say, and some experts say that it is somewhere around 3%, below 3%, the interest rates will have a little bit of an effect, but for sure will not have as an effect that prices will go down, and that's important to know as well. And of course, then there is the economical rule as well, with demand and offer to the market. We see that as well, that what is the other solution for buying a property is renting a property, but there is not a lot of offer in the market, not for buying, but also not for renting a place. And that means the rent is still high as well. And still on today, compared if you make the financial balance between a mortgage and just paying your rent, then I saw it somewhere in the responses. With paying a mortgage, of course, you build up equity as well. With paying a rent, yeah, you pay of course the amount to the house owner, but you don't build up any equity. So still today, if you see that the level of rent, and it doesn't seem that they go down that easily. For sure, not in the free sector, where they can index also the rent levels to the inflation plus 1%. That would mean at the moment, yeah, they can go until plus 8, plus 9%, something like that, I believe. So yeah, all those levels make that it is still interesting to buy a property. That is clear. Of course, we always need to have a look at the market, because at a certain moment, if some things happen that we don't foresee on today, then you need to take them into account, of course. What is quite clear is that we all believe that we will not have a raise of prices anymore with 20% this year, and for sure not next year. That is clear. But as experts see it today, it is also unlikely that prices will drop immediately in the near future. But under always that disclaimer of the conditions that can change every day, of course, going forward. And then I just clicked maybe a little bit too fast, but the lack of supply, I said it as well already. Supply as well is also depending on the new builds that are built. On today, there are a lot of problems with that, in the sense that they don't find people to build a lot of new builds. The materials are very expensive due to Corona, due to a ship that was blocked somewhere in a harbor, and also due to Ukraine now again. So that makes that new builds, they go slower than expected. And that brings as well not the extra offer to the market where there is a lot of demand. So of course that will play a role as well. If you go into the market and also in The Hague, then I have some points of attention for you. It's the first thing is very important is the self-occupancy obligation. That means that if you buy a property, then you cannot just rent the property out at any given moment. As of the 1st of March for The Hague, if we buy a property with the WSZ value up to 355,000, then you will need to live in the property the first years yourself. There are some exceptions with renting to some relatives in the first line or the second line. That is possible, but please have a clear look on that. You will have to live normally in the place yourself for 4 years, so take that into account. Of course, the house prices, they went up very fast. That's something I explained already. You also need to balance out always with the financing. I explained you already. And that's the last point that I like to make is interest rates to rise. I explained the impact today on the market, but for sure, the next coming months, year, whenever you buy a property, have a look at it. As just explained as well, sometimes it's also better not to wait too long, as we still have very good rent levels. and interest levels. And if we believe at a certain moment that those interest levels will really go up, then of course financing will be a lot more expensive and is not always compensated by a purchase price that will go down. What would you need in savings before you start the process? That's also important, of course. I will explain to you with a clear overview. What you need, of course, is two things in savings. It's one is the cost for purchasing the home, and you can find them here on the screen. I will tell in a minute in detail. The second thing is the savings that you need for maybe overbidding a little bit on the value of the property, as we still see that depending on the cities, of course, but even when in general I say average prices are going down, it's always an average, and it doesn't mean that it applies for every city and for every neighborhood. Yeah, and it can be that you need to pay a little bit of your own savings as well to make really a good offer that is a little bit higher than the actual market value that is calculated to make the winning offer. Yeah, so that's number two. But to come back on number one, the closing costs, you see the transfer tax, normally 2%. You can be exempted younger than 35 and buying up to 400K, and you can benefit for that one time. Yeah? If it's only with one person that it applies, then it will apply for the part of that person, and the other person will then just pay 2%. You will need to pay the notary mortgage fee, deed fee, and the notary transfer deed fee. Depending on the notaries, they don't all have the same fees that apply. Of course, the service is not always exactly the same as well. Some will take a little bit more time for you and explain everything in detail. Others do it a little bit faster or have a little bit less communication. We can help you, of course, with that, but then you have a little bit of a direction about the number that you need to take into account. You will also probably need to finance. Then you can go to your bank. Your bank will ask you for an administration fee. Depending on the bank, it will be around 1,500 euro, maybe 2,000. You can also go to a mortgage broker. What is the difference with a mortgage broker and a bank? A mortgage broker will give you like the total overview of the market of all banks that are making an offer, and we'll try to search with you at the best possible bank. It can be, of course, on the interest rate. It can be also on the conditions of the mortgage, depending on your personal situation. They will ask for a fee as well, of course. I put here 3,400, but they start already around 2,500, but then they have different packages as well. So always inform yourself if you're interested. So the bank of the mortgage broker, the cost to take into account as well. You have then the real estate agent. I said a typical real estate agent, it will be a percentage. Often it's 1 to 2% of the purchase price. If you go further with our services, as I just explained as well, it will not be a percentage, but it will be a fixed price that will apply. You can find it on our website, but I think I will show you as well later in the slides what are the conditions that apply with us. You have the appraiser, 650 to 800 euros. You need that if you take a mortgage, you will need to have an appraisal report that is asked by the bank. It depends a little bit if you do renovations as well, yes or no, what will be the exact amount of the appraisal, the cost of the appraisal you will need to pay. Then you have a technical inspection. You can leave that in your offer or take it out, but if you do it, you will pay 435 euros, around that amount. Interpreter is necessary when you go to the notary for the transfer deed. If you don't speak Dutch, then he will ask to bring an interpreter as well, because you need to understand everything that he says. And then the interpreter, of course, will translate every sentence that the notary will explain. So you know everything in detail and in your mother tongue, or in English if you say that you understand it clear as well. You will also need to pay a 10% deposit on the total purchase price. You can do that with a deposit, or you can choose for a bank guarantee. With a bank guarantee, a cost of around 250 euros will apply. That's something to discuss with your mortgage advisor. And then you also have the specific NHG. It's a guarantee system where they guarantee for you that if you cannot pay back your loan, that they will do that for you. There will also be an option to apply for better interest rates when you are able to get an NHG loan, but it's only at an amount of 355,000. So yeah, that's something to take into account if you can apply for that, yes or no. If it's possible, then it's always good to have a look in detail because it will, often give a better result in the end, even if you need to pay 0.6% of the mortgage amount in advance. So that's the cost you need to take into account when NHG applies. Yeah, this is the total overview of the transfer costs and that, or the closing costs, and that will be around 5 to 6%, everything included of the purchase price. You can calculate roughly like that. If you want to make a detailed estimation still, then you can also go to our website because we have a little calculator over there. Yeah, the purchase costs. And then I come to the tips that I set for you. What are important tips to know when you're going to enter the market and you want to win the bid, of course, that you make. The first, I already said before, it's value. The value in the market is really very important. And I'm going to explain that with a little example because that's more interesting and more easy to understand. We are looking here at a house of asking price 395,000 euros. Yeah. If we look at that property, as explained, asking price 395, but we look together with you at some references, and then we see that the market value, in fact, of that property is 415,000 euros. Yeah, that's a difference, of course, with 20K between asking and market value. You really like the property, it's in a good neighborhood, and we say, okay, if you want to close the deal, then it is likely for this type of houses, you will need to pay a little bit more. That's part that you pay with your own savings. So you make an offer of 435,000 euros, the purchase price, and you were able to close the deal. It is very nice. In this example, you see that you paid 10% or 40K over the asking price, and you paid 20K or 4.8% over the value of the property. So you see already that difference between asking price and value. The asking price, it is not defined in the Netherlands where selling agents or sellers need to put that asking price. In some other countries, they have some rules about it, but it's not the case in the Netherlands. So yeah, the selling agents just put the price where they believe. A lot of people come to the viewing, come to the property, and then make an offer and maybe start bidding against each other. Yeah. So what we see over here, very important, 20K above value, although it's 40K above asking price. If we go to look at the same property and now the selling agent or the seller says, yeah, but I want to have a little bit more viewers, then maybe they start bidding against each other. I put the asking price at 375,000 euros, so 20K lower. The market value, of course, it stays the same. There is no difference with that. But you wanted to make an offer, you did your calculations and you came to the same. You looked at the value and you said, I want to put 20K on top, so I buy it for 435,000 euros. What you say over here is very clear, is that with the value, we still made the same exercise and it stays the same, of course. You just paid 20K above the value of the property because you like the property. Compared to the purchase or the asking price, there we see that you made, in this example, you made an extra effort of 60K and 16%, but it doesn't reflect anything into the value of the property. It's just the fact that the asking price was put lower by the seller or the selling agent over here, that it seems that you need to pay more if you compare to the asking price. Yeah. Why do I give you this example? Is that is very important, if you ask me, not to look at the asking price because it can be put at any level. It's also difficult then to compare between properties, but always look at the value of the property. Also the value which you can finance for 100%. Maximum will be the value of your property. And then you see what you maybe like to add on top of that to really close the deal and to make the best offer. Yeah. So that's the first exercise, value, very important. And of course as well, it's important for financing, but also, yeah, if you buy a property, you like to buy it around or as close as possible to the value of the property, of course. Second tip that I can give you is how to submit a winning offer. It is very clear, we focused on that just in a minute ago as well. You need to offer good price. You need to go to look at the market value and then really offer a price, of course, that is in relation with that value. Otherwise, it will not be accepted. But it's not always the highest price. What is important is that the seller has some security. I started with it before. taking a buying agent is number one, for example. That already helps because then the seller thinks as well, or the selling agent, okay, they made their homework, they looked in detail, and they know what they are offering. But of course, it will also be important if you need a lot of financing via mortgage, or you can also take a part of your own savings to put it in the deal, and then maybe have a certain amount. Let's say you buy for 500, but you only need to finance for 400. Yeah, then it's for the seller also more likely that you will receive that mortgage, and that they can go forward and also go forward until the transfer deed is signed. So security for the seller is also very important. That's why I say as well, always speak as well with your mortgage advisor already that all those topics are clear, because it will be very important the moment that we make the offer that you can calculate on your best efforts to say, and that you also maybe have a little bit of a letter of the mortgage advisor. That can happen as well, that we can add it to the offer to give some security to the seller. Offer the least amount of hassle, also a topic that is important. What is it about? Maybe they want to leave one cupboard, you don't need that cupboard, but they want to leave it behind. Then just say, this today's market is still a seller market. Then you say, no problem, we'll get rid of it later, or put it on Marktplaats or something like that. But leave the cupboard, no problem about that. The second thing that is important is the transfer date. Yeah, and that is important for you as well, to have always that question popped up at the viewing, and also take it into account for yourself. What is somewhere the day that you want to move in yourself? Of course, the seller is going to sell to you. He's going to buy something else. And he wants to have a smooth transition between the actual property and the next property that he's going to. So if he said, okay, we sell today, but I want to move in August, and yes, you say, for me, it's not possible, I want to move in July. Then of course, for the seller, that will be a problem, because he needs to find a property for 1 month. And it's not always likely that in today's market, he will find that easily. So that transfer date, always ask it, also put it next to your own timeline, because for sure, for the seller, that will be an important point, that you can agree to the moment that he likes to move out, and that there is not a lot of discussion about it. And then offer a personal touch. That's a little bit our job as well, of course. We will always add a client profile to the offer. And I can tell you, sometimes when offers are really close to each other, and we receive then a phone call from the selling agent that we won the offer, and they tell us that it's also because we gave a little bit of extra body to our offer, with explaining who the seller was, and that maybe the seller can relate to you, in the sense that maybe they had the same age when they bought the property, or they come from the same country before, or things that are a little bit a match between you and the seller. They will always help when it is close, of course, when two offers are close to each other. Yeah, this is some tips that I can share with you with winning the offer. Of course, we will always help you in drafting that offer if you take our services, but then you know what is important to have a look at. And then I said I would share 3 tips with you. So the last one is the due diligence, where we are looking at. We have the technical inspector, and we have the appraiser that come in and will do an investigation on the property. And then I have just a question. You don't need to put it in the chat or in the poll, but maybe something to think about. Do you book them before or after your offer is accepted? So we have the technical inspector and the appraiser. And my question to you is, do we book them before or after our offer is accepted? I give you some seconds to think about it. Okay, I hope you made up your mind. I will give you the answer, of course. And the sweet spot is after the offer is accepted. Why do I say that? Both, of course, the technical inspector, we saw it was 435 euros. The appraiser is between 650, 800 euros. So both of them, they have a cost. The moment that they come on site and that they need to make a report, they will charge you a fee for that. That's normal, of course. What happens in today's market is that you will not win every offer. Some people, they are very lucky. They make one offer and they immediately win the offer and go forward with signing the purchase contract. But it can also be that depending on your budget, your own taste, and so on, the conditions of your offer, it takes a little bit longer. And of course, if you need to pay those costs for those 2 experts every time that you make an offer and that your offer is refused, then you put already a lot of money into extra costs to say that you maybe could better use to make a higher offer on the next one going forward. So the experts come in after the offer is accepted. After the experts came, you will sign a purchase contract, and then you have the 3-day calling off period. You will say, yeah, maybe then we have a little bit of a risk because we need to make an offer, but we don't have all that information yet. Of course, we can help you with that. And that's why I will finalize this presentation as well with going into detail a little bit in the buying process, the timeline that applies, and of course, the services that we offer as well related to that. The first is, of course, you start with searching for a property. That is clear. On today, what is most common is that you will find a property on funda.nl. That means that we can help you as well with finding some places in our network. But I have to be honest that because of the fact that the market is very tight, and that selling agents also like to have a lot of people coming to the viewings because they start overbidding and then they push the prices up, that people like to have the property listed on funda.nl. Yeah. What can happen is if you look at certain neighborhoods that you see that a certain selling agent has a lot of listings over there. You always have some market leaders where they have a lot of listings in a certain neighborhood. It can be advised that you then also subscribe to their social media on Facebook, on Instagram, maybe on LinkedIn as well. Maybe follow their newsletter if you subscribe on their website. All those things help you to get the listings, a spot or a view on those listings as soon as possible. And then, of course, it is possible for you to contact them and secure that viewing, which is the first step to take and which is very important. Yeah. We have two packages. We have a smart package. We have a complete package. In a smart package, we will not come to the viewings together with you. We will be more like a coach to you. In the complete package, we will also attend the viewings together with you. So the moment that you like a property and you like to schedule the viewings with the complete package, we can help you with that as well. And of course, we will attend the viewings together with you. If you go to the viewing, you walk around, you like the property, then you will receive from the selling agents a lot of information about the property. That's a little bit like the ID of the property. It are documents that are related to technical aspects, documents related to legal aspects, documents related to financial things. And of course, if you're looking for an apartment, also a lot of information about the co-ownership, about the VVE, as it's called in Dutch. Yeah, all those information will be shared with you. A lot of information, of course, will be in Dutch. That's why we will do a property document review. We will look into all those details for you, and we will also make a summary of that information. In that summary, you will find some maybe red flags where we say, okay, this is a little bit strange. We will also share with you when we say, yeah, normally you should have received this information. But if we look into detail in all documentation, then we cannot find that information. So we need to double check with the selling agent, or if it's not available, it can also be a reason not to go forward. The second thing that we will do, and that's the appraisal side, I can say, is that we will have a look at that value that we discussed. Yeah, we will look at references of properties that have similar conditions, of course, that are sold lately within a period of 12 months. That's normally the period that we are looking at. And based on those references, comparables, we will give you an idea about the expected value of the property in a certain range that the appraiser will put on paper as well. Yeah, this price research is, of course, very important when you like to make or consider making an offer. In the sense that, as I just explained, that will be the amount that you will secure as a mortgage. And of course, based on that, with some own savings that you like to put on top, then you know exactly what is the maximum amount of purchase price you like to put on the table. We will discuss all that information always in detail with you, so it will also be transparent. It will not be one number, but it will be an explanation why we come to that range, to those numbers that we give you as an answer to that question. And then, of course, if you say, okay, based on all information, I like to go forward, as explained, we will draft the offer with you. And we explained already how to make a winning offer. And then, of course, we submit it to the seller or the selling agent. And we hope that your offer will be the winning offer and that it gets approved. After the offer is approved, as I already said, we call the appraiser and the technical inspector. We have some experts where we work with together. Of course, if you have your own experts, that's totally fine as well. But then they will come to the site. The appraiser will make the financial report, very important to get your mortgage approved. And the technical inspector, of course, will put the technical reports together. But it's not that important for the bank, although sometimes it will be necessary to understand what is the state of the house. But most important will be for yourself to know that you buy a property and there are no real big technical defects at the house. Also, what the maintenance will be the next coming years, because that's also part of that technical report. And then if you have all that information, we can go to sign the purchase contract. Of course, we will have the review together with you, because it will be drafted by the selling agent. Only in Amsterdam, it is drafted by the notary, but in all the other cities in the country, it is drafted by the selling agent. So we double check together with you and explain as well what you need to know about the specific wordings of that contract. And then after signing of the purchase contract, of course, and also together with the appraisal report, you can apply for your mortgage and hopefully it gets approved very fast. What is important to say that you have a cooling off period of 3 days. Within those 3 days, you can still cancel the purchase contract without any specific reason. That's your total right. After those 3 days, you cannot just pull out of the deal anymore. If you want to pull out of the deal, then or you need to have a financial clause where you state that you need to get a mortgage approval. And when it's not approved, and you can prove that, of course, with some statements from the bank, then that is a reason to cancel without a penalty. If you don't have any of that clauses in your offer and you sign the purchase contract, then after the cooling off period, you cannot cancel the contract like that. If you cancel the contract, you need to pay a penalty of 15%. Yeah, so that's important to know. There are some ways to somewhere also have your purchase signed and your offer made without a financial clause and still to be quite secure. That means that you need to have good contact with your mortgage advisor. Some of them are able to come back to you within 3 days on a mortgage application. They are not all the same. I see a little bit of a difference between mortgage advisors, also for sure a big difference with the bank itself. But some mortgage advisors, they are able to close the deal or to have yes or a no on your mortgage request within 3 days. And of course, then you can still make an offer without a financial clause, but still have certainty within those cooling off periods of 3 days, or otherwise cancel just before the end because you know the mortgage was not approved. On average, you need to take into account 4 weeks, and then I speak more about the banks. Banks will take 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending on the complexity of the file. So it can take until 4 weeks before the mortgage is approved. As I said, if we go via mortgage brokers, then we see that it is faster. But also if you have a good relation with your bank, of course, yeah, then maybe they can work a little bit faster for you. And if the mortgage then is approved, of course, that's a good thing, because then we still have some steps to take. We have the statement of completion we will receive from the notary. That's the total overview of the purchase price and all the costs that apply, minus the deposit that you maybe already paid, and minus the mortgage that will be paid. And then the final balance, of course, is your own savings that you're going to use to pay the transfer. If that is all clear, then we go to the notary to sign the transfer deed, as you can see on the screen. But just before we go to the notary, we have a last final inspection. That final inspection is not a technical inspection. So the technical inspection is really with an expert that makes a report. The final inspection, it will be you and I that go to the property together with the seller or the selling agent. We walk through the property, and then we see that everything is empty because you agree to that, of course, that they move out and take everything with them. We will also see how the installations work and that they are still working, that everything is okay. And we can still see a little bit of the shape of the property. It should be in the same state, of course, at the moment that you sign the purchase contract. Yeah? And then if that is totally okay, then we sign the transfer deed with the notary, and then you will receive the keys of the property and you can use the property for your own wishes. One final thing to mention is the end of the liability term. If there are some defects at the house and the seller didn't tell you, you were not able to discover as well, also not during the technical inspection, but you can prove somewhere that the seller knew before and that, for some reason they really didn't inform you, then you can still put them liable for that. But if you like to do that, then don't wait too long. The court will normally say, if you do it with 2 months, okay, we will consider that it's still the responsibility of the seller. If you take too long or too much time to go to court, then they will say, yeah, then it's on your own responsibility as well. And we cannot go to the seller anymore to ask, to repay something to you or to have the solution for that defect being executed. Yeah. So hope it doesn't come to that moment, of course, because that's not funny and we don't have it a lot. Because if you do your technical inspection good, you look at the files and you did a visit, then normally you should have 99% of the cases that are excluded, of course. Voila, that's it about the timeline. I told you I would just come back to our packages as well. You can see the smart package where I already explained we're more like a coach for you, because we will help you during the total buying process, the total timeline. That will not change. But we will not visit the property together with you. That's a smart package, and it comes at 2,499, including VAT. Then we have the complete package. As I said, that's like the standard realtor package to say, where we come together with you to do the viewings, we attend also the experts when they come to the site, if you like us to do that. That's at a cost of 3,999, including VAT. And then, as I explained, but it's a part of another webinar, but you also have a new build package that is a little bit different. It is like a smart package, but then for new builds, to say. It is a little bit more research that we need to do that. Over there, we will also have meetings with the selling agent or the developer directly, and that comes at the price of 2,999 euros, also including VAT. Yeah, that are the packages. If you want to have more information about that, I would ask you to book an intake, and then in 15 to 30 minutes we explain every detail and answer for all your questions that you may have, of course. Voila, that's the most important I'd like to share with you tonight. I see already that there are some questions. I'm going to have a look at it now. Who can actually buy in terms of the legal status of residence and so on? It's a question from Mohammed Abbas, if I can see it. Everybody can buy if you are able. Of course, you need to have the correct rights to act in a legal way, that you have the age to do that. And also that there are no physical or mental restrictions to do that. But otherwise, everybody can buy. Of course, what is important is that when not in the buying process, but in the financing process, if you need to have a mortgage, then it's always important to double check with your mortgage advisor if you're able to have a mortgage. Because sometimes some banks will ask you that you live in the Netherlands already for some time, that you have a stable income in the Netherlands for some time. That can all be different conditions that apply. And so it's not that important for the buying process. It will be more important for the financing to have a clear view on that. Yeah. Why would asking price be lower than market price? I see that as well. It's a question from Davidas. I already explained a little bit, but I will repeat. What is important for the seller, of course, is to get the highest price. It started at the moment in Amsterdam, and then it spread it all over the country. Is that they said, oh, we have a lot of people that like to bring a visit. And if we now say that asking price is a little bit lower than what we expect, then we see that even more people come to the viewing. And then during that viewings, of course, people see as well that one goes out and the other comes in, and so on and so on. And they need to make an offer. but based on the asking price, they don't exactly know the value of the property because the asking price is lower. And they see as well a lot of people coming into that property. So they say, oh, it's really a popular property. So we were thinking about this amount putting on the table, but maybe if we see now and all people coming in and out, maybe we need to put that extra 5 or 10K in savings that we have to be sure that we make a good offer. And we saw, of course, in the time that passed, that using that kind of technique, we need to say it as it is, it pushed prices up a little bit as well. Yeah. So that's why they put asking prices lower than the market prices. I have to say as well that it is not always the case. Yeah. It is not always that the asking price is below market value. Sometimes they just put it on the market value. And then I explained the total process. If you then start calculating, oh, I need to pay, for example, I need to pay 40% above asking price. But at a certain moment, you start doing that over asking price, but that asking price is already at market value, then you will pay an amount that is way too high if you compare to other properties, and you will overpay really too much on that. That's why we do that detailed price research for you. And based on that information, you will know, okay, where is the asking price compared to the market value? We have that market value for our financing. And what is maybe the extra amount that we like to put on the table as an offer to close the deal and to make the winning offer. I hope that is a little bit of an explanation to your question. Then would we not need to speak with someone about financing before searching and making an offer? It's a question from Stephanie Morgan. Yes, that's what I explained in the beginning. For sure, you need to speak to somebody about financing before you go into the buying process. I didn't maybe explain that into the timeline. That's correct, but I said it totally in the beginning of my presentation. It is very important to have a clear view on your financing before you start the process. You will need to know what you can finance based on your salary. That's the first cap that will apply. And then the second thing, of course, if you know what you can finance based on your salary, then we'll have a look also at what you can finance based on the market value of the property. And the lowest amount, that will be the maximum amount that you can close as the mortgage in the end. And that you need to calculate, of course, when you make the offer. If you want us to help you with some mortgage advisors, we can freely share some contact details as well. Then you just put your email address in the chat, and we will send you a little email with some contact details. Do you ask for the package money in one installment? That is a question from Denise. So if you ask for the package for our fee that you need to pay, we will not ask you to pay the total amount of our package just immediately when you start. You will do a down payment, as I already explained, around 10% of our fee. And the total fee you will only need to pay the moment that you are able to buy a property. And that will also be taken into account in the total balance when you go to sign your transfer deed with the notary. And so the notary indeed in the end will pay us, but of course you will receive that total balance from the notary. Yeah, so totally in the end. Could you come back to the timeline just to take a second look? I will do that in a minute. What I can tell you as well is that we recorded everything that we are explaining tonight, and that we will also share the presentation with you. So afterwards, you will always be able to find it via the newsletter that you will receive. Even if you are going to look on Google, then you will find our presentations as well. But I'll go back to that in a minute. I'm just going to finalize the questions that I have in front of me. Does the bank mortgage cover up to the original asking value or up to the value that the appraiser set after inspection of the property? That is very easy. It's the value that the appraiser will put on paper for you. Yeah. So we will make our calculation somewhere. That is not the final calculation. It will be that one of the appraiser. But of course, if we are not sure about our calculations as well, we will have a call with some appraisers as well to know a little bit what is to be the expected value. It can be a little bit different. I'm not going to say that we can really give the number. That's not possible, but it will be very close. Then also a question from Mario again. The clause for getting covered in case the mortgage does not get approved. has to be included when signing the offer or when signing the purchase contract? The answer is both. It needs to be in the offer and it needs to be in the purchase contract. So yeah, that is the answer that I can give you. You need to think about it already in the offer, but of course it will also be taken into the final draft of your purchase contract. Okay, then I think I answered all the questions that are there on today. I will go back for that one person that asked for it. If I can go back just a minute. Voila, this is the timeline. I will show it on the screen for some minutes. If you still have some questions, you can pop it in the chat. And otherwise, I'm going slowly to end this presentation. For all the people that still have specific questions for your specific file, always feel free to book an intake with us. It's free of charge. It takes half an hour, something like that. And we book it when that's possible for you in the agenda. Of course, when you go for The Hague, you will meet my colleague, Katie, later on. But of course, if you have specific questions, we are there together with the team. Yeah, it's also possible that you say after today, okay, I like to look at The Hague, but maybe also at other cities. That is totally fine as well with us. We can offer our services in different cities, as I just explained to you. Voila, that's it for me tonight, I believe. As said, we will share the presentation with you. We hope to speak to you soon when you say, okay, I have a clear view on my financing. I want to go forward. Then feel free to book an intake and then we can chat about your specific buying file. And I see here that one last question pops up. So I'm a bit confused about the amount of the mortgage. Question from Dennis. If the inspector says the house value is around 200K and we have bid and approved 250K, what happens to the 50K? If the inspector says the house value is 200K, and you like to know if we made an offer of 250K, so that's then the purchase price that you mean with that 250K, then that difference of 50K, then it's something you will need to pay with your own savings. So you can only have a mortgage that is the maximum, the amount that is first calculated on your salary, of course. The mortgage advisor will see that based on your salary, you can pay the installments that you need to pay. And second, it can only be 100% of the value of the property that you will get financed. Yeah. So if the property value of the inspector is 200K, then you make an offer of 250K. That 50K you will have to pay with your own savings. Perfect. Okay. Then this is it for tonight. As I said, it's still nice weather. I see the sun is still shining in. So I will wish you all a very good evening. Enjoy the sun, maybe enjoy a little terrace. That's always nice with this kind of weather. And then the moment that you're ready, feel free to reach out to us and we will happy to support you in your search and in your buying process going forward. Have a nice evening and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.